I still remember the way her voice trembled that night. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed, a simple text from Emily. "Hey, I'll be home late. Don't wait up. It's just business stuff." Business stuff. Those two words would change everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the person I built my life around. You know, when something feels off, not because of what's said, but because of what's not. That was Emily lately. Colder hugs. Shorter goodbyes, eyes that used to light up when I walked in, now barely looked at me. I'd tell myself she's just tired. Work's been rough. She'd been traveling more for her job lately, conferences, client dinners, overnight meetings. And I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But love, real love, gives you instincts you can't silence. And mine were screaming. That Friday, she was supposed to fly to Chicago for a 3-day business trip. I helped her pack. Folded her blouses, slid her laptop into the bag, kissed her on the cheek as she left for the airport. She smiled, that same soft, practiced smile she'd worn for months. And for the first time, it didn't reach her eyes. The first night she was gone, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. Her side of the bed was cold. Even our dog, Max, kept pacing by the door like he was waiting for her to come home. Around 11 p.m., I decided to check her location. Not out of jealousy, out of this gnawing, suffocating fear that I couldn't explain. She'd shared it with me months ago. For safety, she said. That night, it was turned off. My stomach sank. I opened her laptop. She'd left it charging on the kitchen counter. I knew it was wrong. But at that point, my heart was already cracking, and I needed something, anything, to tell me I was wrong about the thing I already knew. The emails were normal at first. Work updates, client memos, until I saw one labeled E. Not her initial, someone else's. Subject line, "Can't wait to see you again." I clicked it open. "Wish we could have stayed another night. Counting the hours until your business trip. E." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. The air felt heavy. My hands shook. My throat went dry. Every sound in the house, the ticking clock, the hum of the fridge, felt like mockery. I wanted to scream, break something, but I didn't. I just stood there, staring at the truth I'd been too afraid to face. The next morning, I called her hotel. They said there was no reservation under Emily Carter. Not even a canceled one. That's when I knew she hadn't gone to Chicago at all. My heart was pounding as I opened her phone bill. Dozens of calls and texts to one number, repeated every night. Saved under the name, Elena Coworker. But that wasn't a coworker. I dialed it. A man's voice answered, calm, confident, and far too familiar. "Hello." My mouth went dry. "Who is this?" He paused. "Oh, who's this?" I hung up. That's when denial gave way to reality. My wife, my Emily, was cheating on me. I spent the next few hours in silence, just sitting there. The sun moved across the living room wall, and I didn't even notice. It felt like someone had scooped the air out of the room and left me to drown in the emptiness. Every memory, our wedding day, the house we built, the promises we whispered, came crashing back like waves meant to suffocate. I didn't tell anyone, not my brother, not my best friend. I just went through the motions, work, dishes, laundry, pretending my world wasn't collapsing. By Sunday night, she texted again. Flight delayed. "I'll be home tomorrow morning." I almost laughed. Delayed, right. When she finally walked through the door, she looked radiant, glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years. She smelled like hotel shampoo and someone else's cologne. "Hey," she said softly, setting her suitcase down. "Missed you." I stared at her, at the woman I thought I knew. "Did you?" I asked quietly. She froze for half a second, that tiny flinch you notice only when you're watching closely. "Of course," she said, forcing a smile. "Why would you even ask that?" "Because Emily, I know." That night after dinner, I couldn't take it anymore. I opened my phone and showed her the email, her face drained of color. The silence between us was deafening. "Who is he?" I whispered. She looked away. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I said. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my wife just spent a weekend with another man." Tears welled in her eyes. "Jason, I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely. You've been so distant lately. Work's been hard, and Ethan just listened." Ethan, so that was his name. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She kept talking, words spilling out like excuses she'd rehearsed. "It just happened, okay? I didn't plan it, but it made me feel alive again." Alive, she used that word, as if our marriage had been a coffin she needed to escape. I stood there, heart splitting open, trying to understand how the woman I'd loved for a decade could look me in the eyes and say that. Finally, I said the only thing I could manage: "Go pack a bag." She blinked. "What?" "You said you feel alive with him. Go, be alive." And for a moment, she didn't move. Her lips trembled, her eyes darting like she was searching for something to hold on to. But then, she turned away. Upstairs, I heard the soft click of the suitcase, the sound of zippers and broken promises. When she left, the door closed softly behind her. No slam, no goodbye, just silence. And in that silence, my world ended. The morning after she left, I sat on the edge of our bed and stared at the empty side. Her pillow still smelled like her perfume, faint lavender, and something sweet I couldn't stand to breathe in anymore. You don't realize how loud silence can be until you wake up next to it. I didn't cry right away. Shock is merciful that way. It freezes you before the pain floods in. But when I walked into the kitchen and saw her coffee mug still in the sink, lipstick mark on the rim, that's when it hit. Like a body blow straight to the chest. I slid down to the floor and just let it out. The kind of crying you can't control. The kind that breaks you open in ways you didn't think were possible. The next few days blurred together. Work became noise. Friends called. I ignored them. I'd stare at my phone, half hoping she'd text, half praying she wouldn't. At night, I'd replay her words over and over. It made me feel alive. Alive, as if loving me had been some kind of slow death. I started checking her social media, even though I knew it would hurt. And it did. A week later, she posted a picture, her on a restaurant patio, sunlight on her face, holding a wine glass. Ethan's arm half visible around her shoulder. Caption, New Beginnings. That phrase, new beginnings, felt like a knife twisting in my ribs. She looked happy, free. Meanwhile, I couldn't even walk into the bedroom without feeling sick. People think heartbreak is all rage and yelling, but it's not. It's quiet. It's you standing in the grocery store staring at her favorite cereal and realizing you'll never buy it again. It's the way the house smells different because her shampoo isn't in the shower anymore. It's 1,000 little absences that scream louder than any argument ever could. One night, I opened the old photo album from our wedding. Her smile back then, it wasn't fake. I know it wasn't. I traced her face on the photo with my thumb and whispered, "Where did you go, Em?" But there was no answer, just the hum of the fridge and the faint sound of rain tapping against the window. Days turned into weeks. I started running again, just to feel something besides pain. 5 miles at dawn, until my lungs burned and my thoughts blurred into the rhythm of my footsteps. That's when I began to see things more clearly. Not just what she'd done, but what I'd ignored. We hadn't been happy for a while. I worked long hours, came home tired, and she drifted further away, one quiet sigh at a time. I thought love was supposed to be enough, that if you just stayed, fought, forgave, it would all hold together. But love, I realized, isn't a cage. It's a choice, one she'd stopped making long before she packed her bag. Then one afternoon, I saw her. I was grabbing coffee downtown when I spotted her through the window of a bakery across the street. Emily sitting with him, Ethan. He was tall, clean-cut, confident. The kind of guy who smiles like he's never been told no. She laughed, that laugh I hadn't heard in months. For a moment, I couldn't move. It was like watching a ghost live a life I was no longer part of. She looked happy but not peaceful. There was a flicker in her eyes, something restless, uncertain, that only someone who'd loved her deeply could notice. I turned and walked away before she could see me, not out of pride, out of mercy. For her and for myself, weeks passed. Her social media became quieter. Fewer pictures, fewer smiles. Then one night, 2 months since she left, my phone buzzed. A text from her. "Hey, I know I don't deserve to ask, but how's Max doing?" Max, our dog, the only living thing we still shared. I stared at that message for a long time before replying. "He's fine, misses you sometimes." She replied almost instantly. "I miss him too." Not "I miss you, I miss him." I turned off my phone and sat in silence, realizing that maybe closure doesn't come from answers, it comes from learning to live without them. Then something strange happened. I started to heal, not all at once, slowly, like a bruise fading under skin. I began cooking again, met friends for dinner, even laughed a little. The world started to look less gray. But deep down, a part of me still wondered if she'd ever realize what she'd thrown away. One night, my buddy Ryan called. "Man, you won't believe what I just saw." "What?" "Your ex at O'Malley's. She was with that guy, Ethan. They were fighting." "Like bad?" My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" She was crying. He stormed out, left her there. Whole bar saw it. I didn't know what to feel, anger, pity, or something in between. But mostly, I just felt tired. That's when I knew something was coming. Something I wasn't ready for, but maybe, deep down, I needed. Because when a storm begins to fade, sometimes it circles back one last time. And this one wasn't done with me yet. It happened on a Tuesday evening, the kind of gray, heavy-skied evening that makes you feel like the world's holding its breath. I had just gotten home from work. Max was waiting by the door, tail wagging softly, when I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, my heart stopped. Emily stood there, the same woman who'd once walked out without looking back, but she wasn't the same anymore. Her eyes were swollen, makeup smudged, hair tangled from wind and tears. Her suitcase sat beside her, the same one she'd taken that night, only this time it looked heavier, like it carried everything she'd run from. "Hi," she whispered. For a moment I couldn't speak. I just stared at the face that had haunted me for months. "What are you doing here, Emily?" Her voice cracked. I didn't know where else to go. I should have slammed the door. I should have told her to leave. But instead I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like someone entering a church after losing faith. The house smelled of rain and silence. Her eyes darted around the couch, the pictures on the wall, as if she was measuring the distance between who we were and who we'd become. "I'm sorry," she said softly. I didn't answer. I just watched her, every word, every tremor in her hands. She sat down on the edge of the couch and began to cry. Not the quiet, graceful kind of crying. This was raw, broken, desperate. "I ruined everything," she whispered through tears. "Ethan, he wasn't who I thought he was." I said nothing, just listened, because part of me needed to hear it. She kept talking, words tumbling out like she'd been holding them back for too long. At first it felt exciting. He said all the things I wanted to hear, that I was special, that I deserved more. I believed him. I wanted to feel seen again. She swallowed hard, but after I left you, he changed. He didn't want me, not really. I was just something new to him. She looked up, eyes red. "He cheated on me, Jason, with someone from his office. I caught them. I walked in and saw them together, just like you probably imagined seeing me." Her voice broke completely then. "I finally understood what I did to you, and I hate myself for it." I sat down across from her. For the first time, I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I saw the woman who was lost, and now broken by her own choices. The silence between us stretched long and heavy. Rain started tapping against the window, soft and rhythmic, like the world was trying to fill the space between our breaths. "I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness," she said quietly. "I know I don't deserve it. I didn't know where else to go. Everyone I thought cared about me disappeared. You were the only person who ever really loved me." Her voice trembled on that last word, loved. I stared at her for a long time before finally asking, "Why now, Emily, after all this time?" She wiped her tears, "Because I finally realized what I threw away, and I can't forgive myself for it." Her honesty hit me harder than her betrayal ever did. Not because I wanted her back, but because I could see she was finally facing herself. She reached out, hesitating. "Jason, do you still hate me?" I looked at her hand, the same hand that once wore my ring, now trembling in midair. "I don't hate you," I said quietly. "I did, for a long time, but hate's just love that's been burned too long." She nodded slowly, tears spilling again. "I miss you," she whispered, "not just who we were, you. The way you'd look at me like I was home. I don't have that anymore." My chest tightened. You can't destroy home and then come back expecting it to look the same. She lowered her head. "I know." For a long time we just sat there, the storm outside echoing the one between us. I wanted to hold her, to comfort her, to tell her it was going to be okay, but the truth was I didn't know if it ever would be. She looked up again. "I don't expect you to take me back. I didn't want to disappear without saying I was sorry." And somehow I believed her, because the woman sitting in front of me wasn't the same one who'd left that night with someone else's perfume on her skin. This was someone stripped bare, fragile, remorseful human. I stood up and took a slow breath. "You can stay," I said quietly. She blinked in surprise. "What?" "Just for tonight," I said. "The guest room's still there." Her lip quivered, but she nodded. "Thank you." That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain. Through the thin walls, I could hear her breathing softly in the next room. It was strange, familiar, yet foreign, like a song you used to love but can't listen to the same way anymore. I thought about everything, the laughter, the betrayal, the pain, and then the faintest hint of peace. Maybe closure doesn't come when someone says sorry. Maybe it comes the moment you realize you don't need the apology anymore. Still, as the rain slowed and the night went quiet, one truth whispered through my mind, one that scared and soothed me all at once. Sometimes the person who broke you is the only one who can show you how strong you've become. I woke up to the sound of birds outside my window. The rain had stopped sometime during the night, leaving the world washed clean, bright, still, almost too quiet. For a few seconds I forgot everything. Then I rolled over and saw the faint indentation on the pillow beside me. Empty, but not untouched. Emily, it wasn't a dream. I sat up, heart heavy but strangely calm. The kind of calm that comes after every tear has already been shed. The clock read 7:12 a.m. The house smelled faintly of coffee. She was awake. I found her in the kitchen. She stood by the counter, wearing one of my old sweaters, both hands wrapped around a mug. Sunlight streamed through the window, touching her face in a way that almost hurt to look at, familiar and foreign all at once. She turned when she heard me. Her eyes were swollen but softer than I remembered. "Hey," she said quietly, "morning." Neither of us moved. For a moment, it felt like stepping into a photograph, still, silent, trapped between what was and what would never be again. "I made coffee," she said, pushing a mug toward me, "like old times." I nodded, took it, and leaned against the counter beside her. The first sip burned my throat, bitter but grounding. Everything about that morning felt fragile, like if I spoke too loud, the peace would shatter. "I couldn't sleep," she admitted after a moment. "I kept thinking about everything, us, what I did, what you must have felt." I said nothing. Just listened. She looked down at her mug, fingers trembling. I thought I could run away from what I did, but it followed me. Every night, every morning, the guilt, the silence. I finally spoke. "Guilt doesn't heal people, Emily. It just keeps them in the same place." Her eyes filled again. "Then what does?" "Time," I said, "and truth." She nodded slowly. "Do you still love me?" That question hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. I took a deep breath. "I'll always care about you," I said. "You were my world for 10 years. That kind of love doesn't just disappear, but it changes. It has to, because if it didn't, it would keep killing me." She closed her eyes, tears spilling freely. "I deserve that." "No," I said softly. "You deserve peace. We both do." We sat in silence after that, two people who'd said everything that could ever be said. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "Jason, if I could go back." I cut her off gently. "You can't." She nodded, understanding. "I know. I just wish I hadn't had to lose you to realize what love really is." I stared into my coffee, watching the reflection of sunlight ripple across the surface. "Maybe that's what love does," I said. "Teaches us the hard way, shows us who we are when everything falls apart." She reached out, her hand brushing mine. The touch was soft, not romantic, not pleading, just human. And in that brief contact, there was forgiveness, not the kind you say out loud, but the kind that settles quietly in your bones. After breakfast, she started packing her things. I helped her silently, folded her sweater, zipped the suitcase she'd once left with tears on her face and perfume in the air. Now it was just quiet, two people finally ready to say goodbye. At the door, she turned to me. "I don't know how to thank you for letting me stay." "For everything." "You don't need to," I said. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't let what happened define you. Learn from it. Be better for yourself." She smiled weakly. "You always knew how to say the right thing." "Not always," I said, "just when it's already too late." A faint, bittersweet laugh escaped her, the first real one I'd heard in months. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. It wasn't the kind of embrace you share with a lover. It was the kind that feels like a closing chapter. Warm, final, grateful. When she pulled away, she looked up at me, tears catching the morning light. "I hope you find someone who never makes you feel like you're not enough." "I hope you find yourself," I said softly. She left without another word. The door closed gently, the same way it had that night months ago, but this time it didn't hurt. It just was. I stood there for a long time, listening to the quiet hum of the world outside. Birds, wind, life continuing with or without us. Then I went to the living room and sat down, staring at the empty space where she'd stood. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken, just still. Max walked over and rested his head on my knee. I smiled faintly, running a hand through his fur. "You're stuck with me, buddy," I whispered. That evening, I took a walk. The sky burned orange and pink over the town, one of those sunsets that makes everything look softer, even the scars you carry. I passed the cafe where I'd once seen her with Ethan. It didn't sting anymore. It just felt like another place in a story that no longer belonged to me. When I got home, I poured myself a drink, sat by the window, and let the last of the light fade. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Not because I'd forgotten her, but because I'd finally stopped needing her to remember me. Love isn't always about staying. Sometimes, it's about knowing when to let go, gently, quietly, without hatred. As the sky darkened and the first stars began to appear, I whispered something I knew she'd never hear, but needed to say anyway. "Thank you for the lesson." And somewhere deep inside